I'm Vicki Butler-Henderson, and this is the Historics Auctioneers Refuel podcast. Alongside me is our auction expert, Mathew Priddy.
Good morning, afternoon, good day, whichever time you're watching.
Exactly, or listening to us on your dog walk, car journey, wherever. In this episode, we are going to be looking at one of the world's most iconic and beloved cars. It is, Matthew?
The Mini.
The Mini, yes. We will be looking at how it came into being, what it's doing right now, and the best Mini you can buy to put into your garage.
Buying or selling a classic car? Head to historics.co.uk or click below for a free valuation.
Before we crack on with our main topic, Matthew is just going to do a little bit of housekeeping.
Of course, yes. If you're watching or listening this, please do like, subscribe, bell icons, Instagrams, YouTubes, you name it, we're over it. But more importantly, the more you follow, the more you respond, the more we can do this. So please do follow us across all social channels, of course.
Lovely stuff. And we are delighted to be joined by our resident Mini fan. It is Will Penrose.
Hello.
Hello. Will, did you arrive here in a Mini?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's try that again. Okay, we are talking to you ahead of our Farnborough auction, which is wonderfully titled...
The Flight of Elegance.
The Flight of Elegance,
Yeah.
yes. Farnborough International Exhibition Centre. And what did you drive here today in, Matthew?
In a Land Rover.
In a Land Rover.
Sadly, not an original one, otherwise it would have been just as iconic as a Mini.
Yes, exactly.
But
yeah.
it's quite utilitarian and useful for towing, which is
Yes.
the reason we have it.
But you can tow in a Mini as well. I have seen
What can you tow?
a very, very tiny next Mini.
Okay,
Another
right, another small Mini.
Exactly. Right. Who would like to kick us off then with the wonderful story of how the Mini came into being and why it is so much in our hearts?
So, I mean, ultimately, we all know the story to a point, of course. So, I've done a bit of research. I've actually got 3 pages of notes. 'Cause
Perfect.
The thing with things like Mini or the Land Rover, anything this iconic, is there is a raft of history about the car, which is why we love it so much. So, from what we all know, in the mid-50s, there was a want for a British small car to take on the Europeans, the Fiat 600s, the bubble cars, which were all creeping over because they all thought it was a wonderful idea. That, combined with the Suez Canal fuel crisis, meant that the want for smaller, cheaper cars suddenly jumped to the sort of forefront, and all British manufacturers were trying to sort of get there and scramble there first. So who was it that designed the Mini?
Alec Izagonis.
Yes, I mean everyone knows that. I think we've put on every prelim for every Mini we've ever sold, hasn't it? So he designed it. By 1959, the first one rolls off. 16 centimetres, I believe, shorter than the Fiat 600. So they did their job well. And interestingly, front engine, whereas a lot of the others of these bubble cars were going rear engine, which again suited us in the UK because we seem to be eccentric. We have to have our boot in the back.
Yeah. Also, I think it is cheaper to build a front-wheel drive car than it is.
Well, I think he
wheel-drive.
pioneered that. So the transverse engine, having that was the first one to do it.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing job of packaging.
Yeah.
And he set the standard for all cars now, really. Every single saloon car, little hot hatch, everything, they've copied the same model. So he did set quite a path doing it.
Big time. What is it about Minis that attracted you, Will?
I think like a lot of people, they're a sort of friendly car, they're accessible, they're fun, and they sort of tick all the boxes. They've had racing pedigree, but they're practical, the kind of thing where people do actually let you out in the road with them.
That's true.
And, you can go as fast as you like without breaking the speed limit because 30 feels like 130.
And you can get airborne off of a speed bump.
Oh,
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
Such short wheelbase.
Exactly. Boing.
Sounds like experience talk.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the first time I actually met Will, when was that? That would have been
8 years ago.
about 8
now,
years
I
ago.
think,
I actually met Will because he approached Historics about selling a Mini. He had a Mini. It was from Portugal, wasn't it? It was a
Cooper S.
Cooper S.
What they call a CKD car, which stands for complete knockdown. So it's a way of dodging taxes in Europe. So they would basically assemble a car, send it over to Europe, and then they would do the final assembling there. So they were exactly the same, but they were done over there. But they did them in South Africa, I think, as well. So yes, I found this car in Portugal.
But they were originally all built from Britain and then got sent out and assembled, final assembly.
Almost, yeah. They were
Wow.
it was just enough built to dodge this tax.
It was
in
Europe. Before we were in the European Common Market, so basically tariffs, which is very topical now, of course, the tariffs meant that it was a tax dodge to have them, in effect, we would send over the kit, but they would have their workforce construct them, and thus the tariffs would be lesser, and that was a way in which they could become even more popular in Europe and around the world.
And who came up with the name Complete Knockdown? That sounds like an absolute classic market trader chat.
It's very BMC, isn't it? Yes, straightforward. I have no idea who came up with it.
Some fella in the factory, probably, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just over a
sort
cup
of
of
long
tea.
brown coat.
Yes.
Someone at the British Motor Company, BMC, came up with that.
I assume so.
CKD.
Yes,
I love
someone else
that.
can correct me if it's wrong, but I assume
Brilliant.
that's right.
Brilliant. So then how was the car originally perceived then in the late 50s?
I mean, to be fair, I think when it was first launched, it got motoring journalists actually liked it, which is not always the case with the motor cars. But they all gave it plaudits. Everyone sort of jumped on it. They all thought it was fantastic. Big car inside, small car outside. And I think from memory now, from what I've known from that, is that the sales figures in the first year were absolutely fantastic. It then sort of went on to become sort of the darling of the 60s. Then, of course, which is what you alluded to earlier, of course, Cooper got involved. And I didn't realise this, that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong from what I understand, is that the first Mini Coopers were actually homologated cars so that Cooper could go and race them. So they developed a 100 horsepower Mini to go racing, whereas what we saw was a 55 brake horsepower Mini Cooper. And at that point, then everything starts to snowball. The car suddenly becomes more popular. You have a sporty example, you have a city example. They did the Woody estate, which had wood for just looks. There was no structural difference in it. It was just looks.
But how much weight would that have added?
Oh, do you imagine? Yeah, when it gets wet as well.
Tell us a bit about the Cooper side of Mini, Will, and how did that come about?
Oh, John Cooper was a already well-established racer who built single-seater Formula One cars and stuff for all sorts of people, like Graham Hill, all those characters. And he saw the characteristics of the car and the potential that it would make a good sports car. And it took him a while to convince BMC to let him do a sort of sporty version, but they've finally sort of let him have a go. And of course, it was an instant success. Everyone loved it. They won the Monte Carlo in 64, 65 and 67,
Yeah,
I
three
think.
times.
Yeah, so it was a fantastic piece of kit, and he was bang on the money, and the power steadily sort of stepped up. Some of the cars, some of the early ones, like the 970S, are very, very rare now and seen as an absolute sort of unicorn car if you can find one. But a lot of them are the 1275s, 1071s. They're all similar power. It's just the way the engine works. 1071's a bit revier than 1275, but it's just stole the march, and it just caught the imagination of so many people that it just went from strength to strength.
And it's amazing that a John Cooper Works car now is still on the car, and it's still very much sought after, and a halo,
Isn't it
a
funny?
halo car of the brand.
We worked out that they only earned, John Cooper, for every Cooper that was sold, £2.
£2 per
Blimey.
car profit.
Per car profit.
Barely a paper run, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were £500-ish new, less than £500 new, the Mini. But apparently, it wasn't the greatest business model.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
No, it was, very much a car for the people, but not necessarily for the directors.
No.
And struggled to make ends meet, but kept it cheap.
Yeah.
Which is a bit like a modern car philosophy, isn't it? Get someone in the brand. I think their idea was get them in the brand. It was a first car, a brilliant car, and then they'll go up the brand. The problem with BMC was there was bugger all up the brand to buy, was there? So, the only car that ever worked was the Mini.
Yeah.
And notoriously underfunded on everything. So
Yeah.
it was poorly run and poorly funded.
It was
and
the parts bin, wasn't it?
But it's amazing that they're so strong today that they've managed to survive. Were there any special edition
Cool, were they?
versions of those original Minis?
millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually think that's always indicative of a successful car, is actually how many special editions keep going. And it sometimes is a bit of sort of rolling a car out and flogging a dead horse, but actually it just kept going and going and going, and into the 70s and things. Had the Park Lanes, was it Park Lanes or the 80s? The Park Lanes, the
Mayfair.
Mayfairs, they were the later cars, sorry. I mean, it just kept going and going and going. But it wasn't just special editions, because of the way that British Leyland or that company, which evolved about 15 times before going and selling it out, the same car was in sort of 15 different guises. I mean, even in Italy, where they built in Italy, it was in Incente, and they were more. Actually, they had a better business model. They charged more for it and paid their bills. whereas in everywhere else they struggled to make it work. But you had
And
the
they're beautiful, the Innocenti. Have
Yeah.
you seen them?
Yeah,
The-
'cause
the-
it's-
the- with the cool dashes.
Yeah.
Like a Lusso Ferrari. They had the multiple binnacles, and
So would that have been one of those knockdown ones where they sent the cars to
Yes,
Italy and then
essentially,
Italy
yeah.
finished them?
But they went a bit further than the others, where they had their own lights, and like say the centre binnacles were slightly different, and I think they had like square number plates on the back. They were really pretty little things. They did a lovely job
It's
on
very
them.
early incarnation of that business model that you see Volkswagen, Seat, Skoda, for instance, all using the same floor plans, isn't it? It's that same ideas that, well, we'll just do one thing, just do it in different guises. So they just had a wealth of different options. That, and then on top of all of the sort of recognised manufacturers, then you've got the bespoke stuff. The guys cutting the roofs off, Lahm, I think it was, who eventually were then paid by, who was that, British Leyland at that point, I can't remember, or even Rover, that paid then for it to become a genuine Mini convertible. And then you had Radford, who did special editions. So it's an amazing amount, and actually that works with value as well, because you can get 1 of 3, 1 of 5, and so on and so forth, which makes it more interesting.
Yeah, and also they did one-offs for famous people as well. Ringo Starr, he had his own one.
Yeah. Well, each Beatle had one, and he had one specifically with I think with a hatchback or something, so he can put his drums in.
I love that.
Yeah, luxury Minis. And they were amazing paint jobs, weren't they? Some of the Beatles had.
Yeah.
I think it was like their Rolls Royces. Was it John Lennon's Rolls Royce? I think he had a similar Mini done. And was that a wooden picket, or was that
It might have been a
another one?
wooden
Yeah.
picket one. I mean, those are collectibles as well. The wooden pickets, the Radfords, those are the ones that, again, if they've survived, but they're always wonderful when you trip over them, because you go there and go, this isn't normal, and they've got to have, it's a sodding great big wooden dash, and then some massive luxury seats and electric windows. You can barely fit in them because all these things weren't designed to be in Minis. So, like, the electric windows module is sort of sitting out here, and and the seats are like, oh, blimey. It's a bit like a ham-fisted way of doing something through Halfords.
Yeah.
But people love them. It's almost like the Land Rover philosophy of every Land Rover is a unique one, but it was very much like that with Minis. But
They're still loved, aren't they? I mean, I think Christian Horner bought one of those Beatles ones.
Did he?
Did he?
Yeah, so, obviously if he wants one,
I want it. So apparently Enzo Ferrari had more than one.
that's
So I want to
amazing,
know who
isn't
has
it?
those now, and are they?
Were they
red?
red? Yeah.
Yeah. What cars of that ilk should we be buying or should we be investing in, and how much are they going to cost?
I mean, the Cooper S is always going to be the premium ones. We've seen the values of them skyrocket and then drop back down in recent times. But the Coopers have come on a lot as well. I mean, a couple of years ago, I've got to admit, I was amazed at the time and sold a Mark 1 Mini Cooper for £47,000.
Yeah.
And the guy drove it home to Cornwall.
Oh, brilliant.
What his back was like when he got home, I don't know. Those prices do seem to have ebbed back somewhat, like a lot of things. But
They got carried away for a time, but I think it's because it's one of the easiest cars to collect for obvious reasons. You can put in any garage, any collection, and
doesn't
it's
take
so
up space,
iconic that it's
and then-
you could, and then everyone wanted the best of everything. So those with big collections were sort of chasing the best of, the pinnacle of, and then got carried away really, because over £50,000 for a Mini in any walk of life is kind of bonkers.
Lower down the money scale, what do you expect to pay, and what could you get if you wanted one of those originals?
at the moment, a sort of Mark 1 Cooper of sort of average condition is probably mid-teens. A particularly good one probably be early 20s. The Cooper S's are probably in the 30s. Realistically, at the moment, you might get into the 40s if it was particularly good. Like you mentioned, a lot of it comes down to the quality of restoration, how original they are.
Original cars, which can look not quite so special, but very original cars, are very well sought after by a few, but it's very unusual for them to be properly original. A lot of the Cooper S's we were saying when they were at 50, that's because everyone was just fully restoring them, weren't they? And there was a bit like when you deal with the Lotus Cortinas. There was always, it got the original shell, has it got the original this, original that, and of course lots of them didn't because they fell into needing restoration. So originals quite rare. 59 cars are quite sought after, and then again back to that point of special editions. Anything special that was slightly off the cuff.
And I think the Mini sort of crowd, they're very knowledgeable.
Oh, yes.
And so they will poke around and find exactly
They
the
will
originality.
be-
and
they-
a lot of things
yeah.
are dated on it as well. So they'll look at all the boot locks and the wiper motors and all this sort of stuff.
If we say anything wrong, you guys, you will be on the comments.
Yes, yeah, we
You
know
will
full well you're
definitely
coming
tell it.
for us.
You can educate us, don't worry, we don't mind.
I think we should move it on to the Mini then of the present day. So this is BMW's
The
Mini.
BMW Mini?
Yeah, made in Oxford at the Cowley plant from 2001. So the designers, a couple really who have sort of raised their head up and said, yes, I was involved. One is Frank Stevenson, who reinvented the Fiat 500. He designed the Ferrari F430 and the McLaren MP412C. And then Chris Bangle, who also gave us the Z3, the BMW X5, Fiat Coupe. So there has been a lot of brilliant pens behind the Mini.
And it was quite controversial at the time because you had the old followers of the Mini who were horrified that BMW were going to, basically ruin their beloved brand, and you had people who were excited for it. I think time's shown that actually it was a good move, and they treated it with respect.
Well, half the thing about the Mini is the Mini is supposed to be popular, and it took 40 years to do over 5.5 million sales of the original, and it took 20 years to replicate that with the new one. Now, there are more people, there are more cars. That's not a metric that you can hang your hat on, but it means it's been popular. And it's therefore car of the people, isn't it? So they achieve their goal, which is everyone can afford and use a Mini.
Yeah.
And they've done the same, haven't they? 1 million variants.
Yeah, exactly that. Although this time I think they've probably done it with some profit in mind.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
Which wasn't the first time round. But you can buy little, Mini Coopers now for very little amounts of money of the newer version. So
what money are we talking about?
We're talking under £5,000 for buying early, BMW Minis. They are really for nothing. And you can get Cooper S's and convertibles. They're very easy to buy. So instantly accessible. Still really good fun to drive. They were. I mean, the one thing when the first BMW Mini came out was that sort of, it actually is just like the old one, a real driver's car. Again, same thing. Wheels on each corner, really goes around the bends. The Cooper S variants, even the Cooper variants, really were quite nippy and fun to play with. So, just a modern, amazing how that really did take on everything from the early '60s, almost just replicated, but in a modern guise.
Yeah.
As much as a lot of us classic Mini owners hated, it kind of worked. You couldn't really argue that it didn't work.
But also, I think they should be commended because they managed to keep the silhouette of the Mini. You instantly know it is still a Mini. Like the 911, the evolution of the 911, you still always know exactly what it is.
The prototype wasn't going that way. If you see a picture of the prototype, it's hideous.
Was it more
bad.
Rover Metro than
it's got sort of standy up lights. It just was proportionally horrible.
But think what
so
BMW...
They realised that and got these guys involved and sorted it out, smoothed the lines out.
Wasn't it at BMW at that time they were starting to go the angular route? Was that just they were starting to probably design those more angular BMWs, which would cause consternation for a while. And so, the idea of suddenly making something glitch and a bit sort of warm and fuzzy probably was a bit against, oh my word. But, I think it was a resounding success.
But it also, I truly think, brought in a whole new
absolutely
buying,
yes.
A whole new load of owners.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look at it now, how many people have had them? How many people say, "Oh, that was my first car"? It's just like the original Mini, isn't it? So it's and if you go to Mini days, it's no longer just the old ones. There'll be huge sort of members groups of all different variants who all turn up with all the modern ones. You probably see more of the modern ones than you do the old ones now at the Mini days.
They were clever. They coined the idea of individualism again, though. It was odd. You went into a Mini showroom. I bought one. It wasn't a normal Mini.
There we go.
It was actually what's the 3-door one? It was the Paceman, I think it was.
Okay.
And when you go in there, you sort of just went in there and you just bought a basic car, but then stuck stuff on it, extra options. And the options list
like your Land Rovers
extensive.
copied that, haven't they?
Yeah, it is exactly that. It's like it was all about making it your own. So you'd have a base model, but very few people bought the base model. They'd have the chili pack or the something else pack, or
that's right.
they'd have different coloured roofs. You had 5 different types of roof. You could have the stripes, not the stripes. So actually,
lights, different patterns of the lights.
If you go to when you go to a Mini day at Brooklands, for instance, now. Lots of those, was it R53s? But all of that sort of early incarnation of BMW Minis, they're all different colours, all different slight spec, which is...
They've certainly eaten their money's worth out at the Union Jack, haven't
they?
They
Just
they can eat more, as far as I'm concerned. Honestly, if I could, my Mini would be just a full-on Union Jack, with even more Union Jacks on the door mirrors.
The only thing now is that the most recent ones, the it's really pushing away, isn't it? It's I mean, it's huge. Have you parked one? We've parked an old and a new one. You're like, holy moly, that's nowhere near
Someone
Mini.
told me that the wheelbase, the modern one, is the same as the wheelbase of the original Range Rover.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Wow. That's
Don't
good
know if that's
stat.
true or not. Someone again will correct me, but
Well, you're just going to keep throwing things in there that are wrong, just so you really get you guys
answering my
going.
own questions,
Yeah.
getting the internet to answer it for me.
So which then of BMW's Minis is going to be the best investment?
I'm going to go for the easy route here and say the limited editions, the sort of GP Cooper ones like that.
God, you've got me. That's my favourite.
The
I want
rear
them.
spoiler.
Yeah, the spoiler,
Yeah.
the rear strut brace, fast. They're expensive when
Noisy.
they're new.
Yeah, that will do. I'm certain what the Clio V6 has now done.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
keep moving on because
Yeah.
it's a proper special edition.
What kind of Wonga are we talking about?
Well, they used to be like low mid-teens, but I bet you they're up. I bet you they're one of the fewer cars that are climbing. I haven't seen one on the market for a little while now. It's mileage again because we're more modern cars at this point. Get collared by that mileage thing again. Whereas the older cars, it was all condition restorations and rust. The modern ones, it's going to be a lot about mileage. Is it a low mileage GP, and then it's really collectible.
Of course, service history as well, isn't it? You know, has it been serviced at main dealers, that sort of thing.
And then John Cooper Works stuff. Genuine cars that are through that. We had one, sadly, it had a bit of a checkered past, but it was a great example because it was one of the cars that were originally done by John Cooper Works and that they'd sort of put all the bits on. And those sort of nice stories, those nice bit of provenance, power upgrades is going to be a big thing on the more modern ones, and then mileage. Beyond that, I looked at the strange, you remember the strange convertible one that had a baseball cap on?
Yes.
That was
yeah,
weird.
Yeah.
It got some
Oh,
weird
the
and
Roadster.
wonderfuls. Yeah, Roadsters, they're weird.
Yeah.
Not worth a penny at the moment, really cheap, maybe because
Will
they were
those
slightly
Red
odd.
Bull ones be worth
Oh, I
something at
don't
some
know.
point?
With the Red Bull
With
can
the Red
still
Bull
on.
can, yeah, and all the university students used
Yes.
to want to be a Red Bull ambassador because they got the Mini.
But there'll be similar things. It'll be down to special editions. There's not a great deal that roll off the tongue at this point because it's still quite new. But the early sort of 2000 cars, I think they're old enough to be modern classics.
I think the value will come from the ones finding that haven't been used as daily drivers, that have been really well taken care of.
Which
and low
who bought a
mileage
Mini
and
as a
things.
third car? No one. So it's going to be tough to find low mileage Cooper S's, for instance, which could be a collectible. And unfortunately for this point, while they're modern, it's all bloody mileage. So we're going to be sort of chasing around cars that no one's used, which is just annoying. But, you know, or one owner, full Mini service history if we can find them. But again, got to find them because they're really usable cars.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, we'll see.
The future for Mini is electric. How do we feel about that?
I bet it's ruthlessly good, isn't it?
I'm afraid to tell you, it is very good. Yeah, the latest one. It's another evolution of the shape, but it's beautiful, smooth, and the driving experience. It's electric. It's quiet. It's comfortable. It's smooth.
Kind of makes sense on a smaller car. Let's be honest. Mini was never about the engine noise, or really, it was more about high revving, cornering. So.
And it's practicality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's face it, a lot of those electric ones will be town cars, people driving around the city. It makes complete sense. So whilst I'm not a massive fan of electric cars generally, you know, I have heard very good things about the electric.
Do you know what they
Minis.
should do? They should make a small Mini.
Oh,
It's a novel idea.
A novel idea, I know. But now that they no longer do a small car,
the Mini Me.
maybe they should
Mini-Me.
make a small car.
Yeah, the Mini.
Yeah. Motorsport, Minis and Motorsport, they go absolute hand in hand. There are so many championships for the old,
Millions.
the new ones, global. What is it about the Mini? With you, and Will, you've raced one.
I think it's handling. It's very, very close racing, very tightly controlled on the regulations, and it's accessible. You know, it's affordable. And it's the sort of thing, again, someone can have the car at home, they can maintain and prepare the car in their own single lock-up, whereas, you know, any other car, you wouldn't be able to move around it to do anything. You know, nowadays it's gone more towards teams, but you still got a lot of guys in their sheds in the garden tinkering with them.
Yep.
And they cater to every budget. You know, as the power goes up, the price goes up. But and it's great camaraderie around the paddock. There's historic ones, modern ones. I mean, literally every form of Mini is raced, and they're giant killers in the historic world, as we know from Goodwood and stuff, where they'll take on a Ford Galaxy.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
sometimes
That's always
win.
the best one. Always the Ford Galaxy and the Mini. It's iconic, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. So, and there's loads of variants of them again, like we were discussing off camera, the sort of Marcoses and things, where lots of people saw the greatness of the engineering and then took it on and thought they could improve on it a bit.
Don't talk too much at this point. Vicky wants us to tee us up because she's almost certainly raced one of these.
Vicky? Did Vicky race?
Oh, no. Oh, guys, honestly. I was just going to say that the Mini Cooper Classic is sort of the cheapest way to get into motorsport, and it's cost about £13,000 a year to do a race series in that, which I think is unbelievably affordable. But you can then go to the top end, which is what I raced.
Of course.
So it is the Mini Challenge Trophy, and it is part of the British Touring Car package now. So they've got 6-speed sequential gearbox, 2-litre engine, 255 horsepower.
So £13,000 doesn't even cover the tyres for the season.
Well, you can buy the car for about 55 grand plus VAT, and then you have got a full season on top of that. So there are your two ends of Mini
it's a lot
racing.
of money, but in terms of racing, it's not terrible value, is it? Particularly if you're on the touring car package.
And honestly, these cars are not that far short of a touring car.
Yeah, you're in
lap
a
time,
you're on a proper weekend. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. You know, you're not all turning up.
Have any drivers gone from the Mini now into touring cars?
Say again?
Has anyone gone from, people who used to go from the Clio Cup or whatever,
Yeah.
they used to evolve into it? Have the drivers crossed over?
There are
into
about half a dozen drivers who've either gone up or gone elsewhere into other things. So it's a really good sort of
good entry level
Into it,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Well,
with
yeah.
sponsorship.
Yeah, lots of it.
Yeah, exactly. But when I raced one, it was so much fun.
Oh, so we're
Because-
cutting time now. We're running out of time.
No,
so.
I just need to tell you because it was blowing flames out the back of the car. It was just that, and that for me is a proper racing car. It might be a Mini, it might be tiny, but it can breathe like a dragon.
Absolutely.
And that's what I loved about the Mini. Is it worth investing in any motorsport Mini?
Oh, it's difficult there. I would only say the classics, the early cars.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much in the modern ones at the moment. And that's a lot of the race cars. Race cars is a really tough market to be in. You want eligibility and provenance, which is the same across any classic, really. Eligibility and provenance, and then it's got a value for obvious reasons. People wanted to race things like Goodwood, but I think
A few of the old rally cars have good value, don't they?
Yeah.
The Paddy Holkirk sort of cars, they always do well, but there's not many of them. So when they come up, they make a premium. But there's also lots of little tuners around, companies like Taurus and stuff. So I think some of those ones that had race history, people would pay a premium for. But yeah, there's not, like Matt says, not massive amounts.
Yeah.
The thing is, again, is that with most of them, the idea is, unless you're in one of the big series, it's a tinkering sport. It's the lower end, and therefore it's that sort of, why would you pay a premium unless it's one of those ones with provenance or with some significant history,
Yeah, lovely stuff.
which exist,
Yeah.
of course.
On to our final quiz. Now, for this, I need to hear a call sign from you each, so I know who wants
Safe
to
word.
answer first. So, could you give me a noise that you think is associated with a Mini?
Yay.
Okay.
Ouch!
Okay, cool. Is that because you're too big to get in?
That's every time I hit a speed bump.
Okay. Question number 1. In Austin Powers, Vern Troyer played a character called what?
Oh,
Remember your call sign?
ouch!
Yes, Matthew?
Was he Dr. Evil?
Nope. What's our topic today?
Ouch!
Yes.
Mini-me.
Yes.
I had no idea. No idea.
I haven't seen that movie in ages.
Name the 3 factory colours for the red, white and blue cars in the Italian job. They were red, white and blue, but what's their factory colour called? Give it a guess.
Ouch!
Yes, Matthew.
Vibrant red.
Chili red.
Damn it! Oh.
Yeah, helping him. This is biased.
Yeah, I know, I'm so sorry.
Oh no!
What's the white called and what's the blue called?
Snow White? Snow.
That would have been hilarious.
Snowberry.
Snowberry White.
No, there's another white, isn't there? Oh, God, what's it called? Oh, the internet's screaming at the moment. It's all shouting at the TV.
Oh.
Pepper white, and then can anyone get
I
an
wouldn't have got
indie blue? Oh no, I've said my own
Can
answer.
anyone get Indy Blue?
Yay!
Ouch!
I am such a useless quiz mistress. Okay, number 3. What in 2000? Who drove the last original Mini off the production line?
ouch, I saw this earlier. It was...
I'll do you for time wasting. Get ready to steal. Will.
I've even got the picture in the head. What is it? Oh,
Yeah,
it was
I
Yes,
don't
it
know.
was
I'm going to go with like Elton John or something.
Oh, so close.
no,
Hang on.
it was a female.
It was a lady Mini. Anyone famous spring to mind?
Oh no, it's right there.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh, ouch. Was it Lulu?
Yes.
Oh, was it? I wasn't even going to. I got it wrong anyway.
And I know if you're listening and watching this, I'm so
painful.
sorry
That was really
that was
painful.
painful for you. Okay, what is the most popular colour that Minis are ordered in?
Modern ones.
Yeah. Well, ever, but
Ouch.
including
I bet it's really boring and grey.
it's actually red.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Says Google.
Well, Google's,
Thanks, Google.
Google's bound to be right. Yeah.
How many cars were sold in Mini's first ever year? Please remember.
Come on, Matt, you researched this
No,
earlier.
I would have listened to it and just tried to make notes and then...
Yay, 500,000. Let's try that.
No, because it was
It's a
5
really
points.
tiny production.
Yeah, so it was
run, you see.
struggle by production. I'm going to say if it did in its first year, so in 59, 60,000.
20.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Blimey.
Yeah, I know. Amazing, isn't it?
They couldn't get it quick enough.
How many Minis were sold in the world in 2024?
I don't know any of these.
Ouch.
It's always worth a punt, I tell you. Yes, Matthew.
600,000.
250,000.
Damn, I'm
Yeah.
going too high here.
Yeah.
My expectations are too high.
Okay, penultimate. Will, come on. Right, Will, you've got to get this, okay?
I'm embarrassed.
What is the name of the British actress who earned an Oscar nomination for Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Good Will Hunting in 1998?
Oh, is it curly hair girl? Can't remember her name.
Remember the topic?
Ouch.
Yes.
Mini driver.
Yes!
Well done.
I had no idea. I just assumed Mini.
I had to get her in somewhere.
Oh dear.
Why didn't I get that?
Yeah.
Okay, final question. Spell Isigonis.
Come on, you've written it
double
enough.
S I G O N I something like that.
You were almost there. Isigonis.
An S on the end?
Yay! Oh, I have to declare Matthew the winner.
Of course.
I'm so sorry, Will. Great effort there.
Fair enough.
And I think, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for listening. And I think Matthew would like to have the last word to rally the troops.
Absolutely. So thank you for watching. As I said before, please do like, subscribe, and make sure you share this so that everyone watches and we can make more of them and embarrass Will with his appalling quiz antics.
Sorry. Will.
Equally, as you watch this, we will be approaching our Windsor auction in July. So please do get in contact if you have a car you wish us to look at, value, or if you are looking to purchase, of course, please look at the website, historics.co.uk.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.